And welcome back to the Boundary Corner Podcast, a part of the College Huddle Network, along with my partners Brian Siegler, Jonathan Talley, and Shelton Moss. I am Curtis Wilson. This episode, as always, is brought to you by Dr. Jeremy Counts, down at the Counts Family Pharmacy, your friendly neighborhood pharmacy, 307 South Main Street in Blacksburg. Also brought to you now by the Moments on the Maury. You're looking for the weekend getaway, but still need to make it to Blacksburg for the game? The Moments of the Maury is exactly what you are looking for. Owned by a proud Hokie and located just outside Lexington, Virginia, a little over an hour drive from Blacksburg. It gives it all to you. Fishing, kayaking, canoeing, or just relaxing by or in the river right out the back door. Check out the link in our comment section and on their Instagram page at Moments on the Maury. Fellas, a tradition unlike any other is graced us once again.
We're back, baby. 2025 Hokies Preview Panel. It's something. This is what, year 4? We're year 4 at this point. I think we started back in 22 was the first one we did.
22. The night that it was 11 people on screen at once.
Yeah. We've got a little better about what we're doing as far as layout is concerned, and also thankfully the software we use to do this thing has gotten better in the process to make what we do look a little bit cleaner. But
you know what?
That first year was kind of crazy.
Yeah, this thing has gotten so much better because I'm pretty sure I wasn't on that first year. I don't know if Shelton was on that first year. So if me and Shelton wasn't on it, it was trash.
Hey,
it's got much better. It's got much better year after year, baby.
Well, trash was improved.
Nah, I'm joking.
Shelton, how you doing, man, tonight?
Dude, I've been good, man. We're getting close to go time here with the season. Obviously, my season too. But I was thinking as I was driving back home. You know, it's like no matter what happens in the football offseason, whether it's positive or negative or neutral, I feel like once August rolls around, you always get that super excited feeling inside of you that football is finally back, and it's really a feeling like no other sport can really provide. And so I'm just glad that all the offseason negativity has sort of faded away, and we're kind of starting to get back into the thick of things here, and we can just watch some ball.
Ain't that the truth? I have to agree with you 100%. Regardless, like right now, you're at that point where if you've been upset with the team, you're getting less upset, right, Tally? Tally's been, Tally was hard on him, but it's getting closer. He's interviewed some players. He talked with some people. He's seen some shit. And now it's, we are, 10 days? 11 days? 11 days to go time.
11 days to go time, man. Like Sheldon said, though, man, it's all about, like, sports fan, just life. You know what I'm saying? Like, whenever football comes around, you know that the season's changing. Like here in Huntsville, it started like a storm came through today, so it went from like 92 to 80 within like an hour. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe fall's coming around. So, you know what I'm saying? With football brings fall. With fall brings, the leaves changing colors and things like that. Because my wife don't really care about football, but she loves fall time. So, it's that time, man. It is almost upon us.
Yes, it is. And tonight, as always, with the panel, we have got some of the best in basically the Hokie. You can call it podcast, you can call it writing, you can call it everything. These are some of the best out there.
In the world.
Curtis. The best Hokie guys in the world. We got 2 panels tonight. Let's bring on, and the thing is that what I love about it, and all 6 of them, it's no longer, like we were talking in here before we jumped on, it's like a reunion. It's like a family reunion. We haven't seen everybody in a while, or talked to everybody, but it's like a family reunion. I love it. Let's bring them on and introduce them real quick. Boom, 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 before we get into it. Starting first here, Mike McDaniel of the Hokie Hangover Podcast, the BC Podcast ACC, Sons of Saturday Hoops, still writing for Sports Illustrated, still a father. As Tally said to him, he looked a lot older. Good to see you, Mike.
Still getting carded, though. Still getting carded, though. So
hey,
all good.
Yeah, that's a good
all
thing.
Good.
In the middle there, managing editor of Tech Sideline, D. Cunningham. What is up, my man?
Hey, this is – you guys were talking about a tradition unlike any other. It's an honor to be back. I always enjoy chatting with you guys. Thanks for having me.
All right. And
hey,
then
DC got the side kind of hat, the hat kind of sideways today. So I know he's feeling pretty good.
Feeling good. He got a little sun there too. Last but certainly
not from practice though.
Not from practice. Ooh, we're gonna get into that in a second. Last but certainly not least, co-host of the Victory Live podcast. Man did some play-by-play in spring games. As always, good to have him back. Danny Nokes, what's going on?
Not too much, guys. Like David said, it's an honor and a privilege to be back on one of the best traditions in Hokies football before the season. And it's an honor also to be a part of such an awesome community of creators that love this team and love this program and love their alma mater. So hopefully we could spread a little bit of positivity, but we're also going to be real here over the next several minutes.
You know what's real, Danny?
What's that?
That mic that you got.
Yeah,
you sound like a boss.
Hey, I've done a lot of radio shows in DC from this seat right here with this microphone. I have to at least sound like a professional, right, Tally?
Dulcet tones of Danny Nokes.
Yeah, Danny Nokes.
Well, we are here to talk about Hokies football, so let's get that started, Brian Siegler.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to start it like this. I mean, and Danny, you alluded to it a little bit when we talked about this being a tradition and, wanted to bring some positivity, but also wanting to be real about expectations and kind of what we want to see this year. I'm going to start with offensive line. I mean, this is we focus on the trenches here. Unabashedly, we definitely have our hopes of victory and defeat kind of pinned on what's going to happen in the trenches. So we're going to start with offensive line. It seems like it's kind of set with the starters there with, Remock and Garrett at the tackles. You got Altuner there and Lathan and Cunningham holding down the guard positions. I'm going to start this one with Mike, and we'll go kind of around the horn here on what you guys think. But I'll start with Mike here. In your opinion, who is the most important offensive line starter in this unit, in terms of what's going to dictate Hokies' success for this year?
I've been beating this drum on a couple different podcasts. It's Montavious Cunningham because this is a guy that we all thought last offseason when he entered the portal and came to Virginia Tech, we all thought that he was going to be a guy who was going to contribute right away. He wasn't that guy, right?
Or was he?
Kind of nowhere to be found, right? On an offensive line that was, I would say, suspect for a lot of last year, right? Now he's being relied upon as one of the guys to come in and contribute and, really be kind of a stalwart on a reworked offensive line with a new coach and all these new faces. Now Virginia Tech's heavily relying on him. So we can look at this one of two ways. One, he's improved a lot. He's healthier. He's in a better place, right? And it's a new coach anyway, so maybe he's just improved and developed. Or we can look at it as Virginia Tech had nobody else to put there. We're going to find that answer out really, really quickly against South Carolina, and I think he's the most important guy all year. Virginia Tech's had trouble. They had trouble towards the end of the Fuente era. They've had trouble now, obviously, throughout the first 3 years of Pry, of really having consistency up front on the offensive line, whether it be health or just overall production. And this is kind of a make or break year, right? You bring in Matt Moore to patch things up. You bring in, a host of transfers. 2 of them came over with Matt Moore from West Virginia.
Yep.
It really needs to be good right away, especially with an offense that is going to be breaking in so many new faces, so many new playmakers at the skill positions, at receiver especially. A lot of young guys are going to have to contribute. So you've got to figure out offensive line. And most importantly, got to keep Kyron Drones upright, which was an issue last year, obviously, and the season really started going sideways when he wasn't healthy.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Danny, I'll let you take it second here.
Well, I think it's Remack, and obviously he's probably coming in with the most experience. Started all 13 games at West Virginia last year, and Virginia Tech, despite the struggles over both the last few years of Fuente's time and with Brent Pry's first few years, they have found some gems in the transfer portal, and they're going to need some more outside of Remack this year. We'll get into some of the other positions over the rest of the offense and the defense too, but I just think that he brings in a lot of experience and is a talented player too. So I know our buddy Dwight Vick, a former offensive lineman himself, is always harping on the offensive line needing to be better, needing to be aggressive, needing to have an attitude, and he's absolutely right about that. It's just going to make the offense's job a lot easier. And Mike already talked about how important it's going to be for Kyron Drones to be kept upright this year for Tech to have any decent chance at winning more than 6 games. And not to mention their backfield, who there's a lot of new faces in the backfield this year as well, but there's also a lot of talent and a lot of experience at other programs that's going to get some touches there that Kyron Jones will be handing the ball off to. So it's all going to start up front. I think Remack is a guy that can come in and could sort of establish that mentality that they're going to need to have to win football games this season. I think if they are going to win more than 6 games, it's going to have to look like classic Virginia Tech football. They're going to need to run it down people's throat on offense, and they're going to, with a few big plays on the outside, and then they're going to need to play really stout defense. So I think Remack is my guy.
Yeah, you mentioned Remack, and we obviously knew when he was coming in, he was going to be a pivotal part of what this offensive line was going to be about.
Right.
And we've seen we had a couple depth charts as far as the first unit offensive line throw out there that, for whatever reason, had Remack on the left side next to Lath and not on the right like we had expected next to Cunningham. Speaking of Cunningham, David, tell me what you think about this one, and let me know if there's any truth to these shuffling of the guard, or if you've mostly seen Remack line up at right there.
Yeah, Remack has mostly been on the right. Exactly what you said at the beginning. I'll take a different route than Mike and Danny. I'll go with Kyle Altuner, the center, redshirt freshman. He's going to start at center. And this is a guy who was recruited originally to West Virginia by Matt Moore. He's from Maryland, so he's a DMV guy. Our Lady of Good Counsel. Pretty good high school prospect. Matt Moore, the new offensive line coach, he knows his linemen. And he's a guy who tons of praise for Altuner. Not just him, but Pry as well. When Brent Pry spoke with us at ACC Media Day, he said he and Matt Moore had a conversation about just what the offensive line was going to look like. And Matt Moore said, that's my guy at center, Kyle Altuner. He's like, you're talking about a redshirt freshman, a guy who hasn't played a snap in college? And he goes, that's my guy. And it kind of tells you the confidence that they have in him, that he hasn't touched a college football field yet in a real game. And he's going to be the starter. And there's no competition. It's going to be him. His maturity, the coaches have praised that aspect, just the way he leads. He doesn't play like a redshirt freshman or a freshman. He plays like a guy who's been doing it for a long time. Danny and Mike made really good points about how important this offense is in terms of the run game and the offensive line and keeping Kyron Drones upright. A redshirt freshman in the middle of that offensive line, that's a little bit scary. But at the same time, it seems like he's going to be a guy that they're going to be able to rely on, not just for this year, but for years to come. And I think that's exciting because if you're a Virginia Tech fan and you're looking for some young guys, like who are young guys that we can watch out for that are going to be in this program for a long time? Remember, this is the transfer portal era. Guys come and go all the time. But with Matt Moore at the helm, I feel pretty confident that Kyle Altuner is going to be here for a while. And Brent Pry said that's a guy who could potentially be a long-time Virginia Tech captain for years to come. So I'm excited. He might not burst out of the gates in week 1 against a really good South Carolina defense, but I think he's going to have a big year.
Yeah, and I mean, when we looked to last year, there was like a moment before I think some injury set in for Altuner where he was even at West Virginia potentially pushing for some very early snaps. So to see him come in here and really pick up right where he left off before those injuries last year, kind of derail that, is pretty big, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to kick it over to Shelton and let him ride with this next one.
Yeah, we're talking defense now. Obviously, it's been almost about half a year since Sam Keefe got hired as Virginia Tech's new defensive coordinator. Obviously, we see it. He's very analytical and process driven and just super detail oriented. He talks a lot about situational football. So when you guys think about the defense under Sam Keefe, what excites you the most about the potential of this group? Let's start with D-Cunna and then go to Danny.
Yeah, I think his ability to mix things up and something that he's said that stood out to me was, and all coaches can say this, but I think he's actually one that's going to do it because he has done it in the past, is base his defense and his game plan around what other teams are doing. He's not just going to sit down as the previous defensive coordinator did and run the same stuff over and over, regardless of situation. He's a guy who will adapt as he has under his when he was in the NFL under those head coaches, and also in his time at like Wofford, adapting to different styles of offense that he's facing. That excites me the most. And I think he truly understands, from talking with players and talking with him and even Brent Pry. I think my feel is that Seifkes has a very good understanding for this group's personnel and how to use them and how to put them in the right situations. And I don't think you would say that about the previous defensive coordinator. And I think that is an immediate uptick, an immediate boost. Virginia Tech might not have as much talent, might not have necessarily an APR last season, or a Dorian Strong or a Mansour Delane, but I think Tech has more safety depth. I think the defensive line, there's a lot of really talented guys and a bit of depth. I think the linebacker coaching is better. And Shelton, to go back to Seifkes, I think his ability to really get the most out of this group is what is going to take this defense, I think, to potentially a new level. Like, I don't think Chris Marv was able to kind of squeeze the most juice out of this group. Even though he had a lot of talent, I think Seifkes will do that.
Danny, what about you? What excites you the most?
Yeah, and to sort of piggyback off of what David was saying, it's just going to be so crucial, especially at the beginning of the season, and particularly in this kickoff game against South Carolina, to adapt to what they're going to do, to game plan for what South Carolina is going to bring out there, because Lenore Sellers is the type of player that would give Virginia Tech fits, even if Bud Foster was still around. I mean, those mobile quarterbacks are for any defensive coordinator. It doesn't matter if you're Bud Foster or Brent Venables back when he was still with Clemson. Those guys are hard to game plan for. So the ability to adapt and not just to game plan, but to also make adjustments within the game. They're going to have to be able to do that on the offensive side of the ball too. And I think that's one of the former coaching staff, because they're starting with a new offensive and defensive coordinator. But one of the things that they were not always good at was making in-game adjustments. And that's something that they're also going to, I think, be better positioned to do with Seifkes there at defensive coordinator. It certainly can't get a whole lot worse. But I heard someone say the other day that they think that the linebackers of this group could sort of surprise some people. And I definitely think that that's true. Guys like Jaden Keller could make an impact on that side of the ball from that position, from wherever they decide to put him on the field. But again, it's going to start up front, similar to the offensive line, right? The defensive line, that's where they'll be able to, get some things going for sure.
All right. Now, Mike McDaniel, otherwise known as Mid-Major Mike by some people think that Sam Seifkes is also a mid-major defensive coordinator. What would you say to the haters who are skeptical of Seifkes' ability, and what excites you about the defense, Mike?
Pry hired Chris Marv as a guy who struggled recruiting at Florida State and was a middle of the road, some would call him mid, linebackers coach, right? And you had him be your defensive coordinator. The way I look at it, right, hiring Sam Seifkes from the NFL and the experience, the guys he coached under, what they were saying about him when he was hired, those coaches that worked with him at the professional level, I don't see how this goes worse than it did the first 3 years. I don't see it, right? And if it does go worse, probably only getting 1 year of it, just considering the where we're at in the tenure for Pry anyway, if this defense ends up being really bad. I am really excited, like Danny and David both just said, I'm really excited to see if this defense is able to be flexible, right? Are you able to change personnel? They brought in literally a million safeties. They brought in so many different guys in the secondary. Steve Kiss is talking about this being multiple. Do they run 4-2-5? Okay, if they do that, maybe that makes a lot of sense, right? Because you bring in all the safeties you brought in, all the cornerback depth. You bring in more depth on the defensive line. Young guys are going to contribute. I'm really excited about Kamari Copeland. He seems like he's finally healthy. Is he going to, finally step up and be the guy that we want him to be? He could be kind of an X factor up front. Obviously, there's Calvin Gilliam. There is some experience on the defensive line still, even though you lose a guy like APR. Can you try to replace him in the aggregate, right? Can you find a way to have some of these young guys step up and contribute in a meaningful way? Danny brought up Jaden Keller. He's one of the important guys on the defense, I think, because of how the highs have been so good with him and the lows have been so low. If we get an improvement at linebacker with Xavier Adibi as the linebackers coach, if we get an improvement there, that's almost a bigger deal to me, right? Is, Seifkis coming in, I'm hoping with Adibi, the linebackers are just coached better, because I think the defense was so up and down. David and I talked about this on my podcast, but the defense was so up and down last year. The one thing that stood out was how poorly the linebackers played at times, and that was obviously a position that Marv coached. I'm really hoping that the linebackers take a huge step forward. I think that would really help this defense, because I think when Tech's been at its best in the first 3 years defensively under Pry, it's been because the linebackers have played well, right? They're filling the right gaps. There's no questions about what they should be doing. When they've been kind of caught flat-footed, that's when everything's kind of gone to hell defensively. I think back to the Syracuse game last year, it was a total disaster with the linebackers. So I'm just hoping the linebacker play is a lot better, and I think with the Seifkis and Adibi, the Adibi addition, I'm really hoping that things are trending in a better direction there.
Good stuff. Yeah, it should be noted, Mid-Major Mike was a facetious comment. But to the point about Seifkis being at Wofford, I will say there is a very strong legacy of Wofford coaches coming to VT and having success. So I'm hoping we can keep that Spartanburg pipeline going strong here.
This we know.
Yeah, well, Mike kind of, hit on some things that we were looking at talking about anyway. So we talk about linebackers, which is going to be very important, this year. But also, even when Brent Pry was hired, with him being a defensive coach and being in love with Michael Parsons, linebacker and stuff like that, we expect to see certain linebacker play. So I'll ask you guys we know that Woodson is a lot for the most part, from what I think. Who else is going to be kind of a starter that you guys would be looking at on that unit when we're talking about linebackers?
Because Pry said, if you were there, David, because I heard your voice. He said there's still a battle at inside. And everybody on this panel knows Caleb Woodson is starting. The man's captain. And the man was unbelievable last year.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think Caleb Woodson can be one of the best defensive players on this team. I believe they named him a team captain today for a reason, this weekend for a reason. He's the real deal. Jaden Keller, it's really, does the light come on, as Mike McDaniel said. Does the light come on for Jaden Keller? That's the big question. The two guys behind him are competing for those spots. Antoine Santiago, he's the Temple transfer, and Michael Short, the North Carolina transfer. They're two guys who are very solid, who have some experience. Yet to be seen if they're actually going to start. But I think for a while, Tech, at least to start, Tech will feel pretty confident about putting those guys in. But I think it's really Keller's spot to lose. Yeah. He's the incumbent. He's the guy who was here the entire spring. Those two guys didn't come in until a little bit more towards the summer. It's can he get better with Xavier Adibi as his head coach? I think he can, but I do think you'll see a pretty solid rotation with Short and Santiago in there as well. Also, Caleb Woodson's going to need breaks eventually. And then the other name in the linebacker room I keep an eye on is Noah Chambers. He's the Maryland kid from DeMatha. I don't know that he'll play this year, but he's a guy who has made some plays in practice. There was a pass rushing drill where he absolutely blew up a running back and knocked him into Elijah Brooks, the running backs coach. Again, I don't know if he'll play this year, but I think I feel better about the linebackers than I have in the last couple of years. And it's funny, somebody just asked about Chambers. I don't know if he's very young. He might need to put on some weight, redshirt, as my colleague Chris Coleman would say. But I think the linebackers are more well-rounded and there's more depth this year.
I think there's also this theme with Tech just all over the field where they've been consistently inconsistent over the first 3 years of Brent Pry's era. And for a guy like Jaden Keller, who we've already talked a good bit about, if you're specifically looking at that linebacker position, him needing to be consistent is going to be tremendously important this season. And David mentioned the position battle he's sort of in right now. I think if he loses that position battle, you're in a little bit of trouble. And hopefully in that scenario, it's more about the guys behind him playing well than it would be about Keller struggling. Because I think in reality, you're going to see all of them on the field, and you're going to need all of them on the field at different points throughout the season. There's going to get guys that are going to get banged up. There's going to be different packages where different guys get on the field at different times during the game, depending on the scenario. So I look at him, and it's already been said, the highest of highs, the lowest of lows. Those high highs, though, sure are sweet. And the guy, he looks like a ball hawk. He can fly all over the field when he's mentally prepared to do so. So it's hard for me to take my eyes off of him and what Keller can do this year.
Well, I agree with what Danny says, but for the most part, but whenever you start looking at stuff, I wasn't saying that to be, crazy, but I'm just saying, like, when you start to look at like players who have been at a school a while, or even captain, or who goes and talks to the media, or who goes to media day, things like that. Sometimes that just doesn't have to do with what's going on the field. So when I look at somebody like Jaden Keller, I hope he takes another step. But, what I say I'm agreeing with Danny on is I hope that there are people behind him that's pushing him, or, that with some of the transfers that's coming in, young guys, because I just want a coaching staff that leaves it all on the field. Like, stop worrying about the next game. Stop worrying about next year. Let's put somebody else in if you're not doing your job.
Yeah.
Monster Delane, you can't fucking make a tackle. Come stand over here by me and let's drink some water. I don't care how much you're getting paid in NIL. I don't care if LSU wants you. You can't get Cam Ward on the ground. You can't get Klubnik, Dubnik, whatever his name is, on the ground. Come over here and let's hang out and talk for a little bit. Let's talk about your next school. I just want a coaching staff that will take a chance and be like, who's over here on the sideline? Hey, you've been practicing. Okay, let's try you. Because I watched the offensive line that was horrible. There is no way that there was not somebody on the side of the field that could go in and give you 2 plays while you bring somebody to the side and say, you ain't fucking blocking. Change your shoes. Your shoes are stuck in the ground. Put some different shoes on.
Hey,
there's a
reason why the offensive line coach was fired.
Oh my God. Danny was, spot on with the things he was saying. I just thought about that when he was saying it, and I was like, no disrespect to Keller, but I've seen him, and I hope that he miraculously comes out and like just blows it up this year, right? But at a certain level, it's like, are we really going to see, like, once you've been seeing a guy for so long, it's like, is that really him? You know what I'm saying? I seen Parker and I knew what they expect of him. And I kept going, man, maybe he took a step backwards on the quarterback's foot. That's what he did. So
to your point, the only thing that I say from a positive standpoint on Keller still being the guy is that it's never been about his physical attributes and his ability. It's
his highs are really high, like I think Danny said. Yeah,
it's between the ears. So if he can put the between the ears part together, then you might have something. So, yeah, I think that's the one saving grace of Keller still being in this conversation, is that if that mental piece does come into play, you're not worried about him from a physical standpoint.
What I do go ahead.
No, go ahead, Tyler.
I was just going to say what I do like, too, is that we went out and recruited some linebackers. Like, if y'all think, a lot of times some of the linebackers that we've had converted safeties, converted wide receivers. No disrespect to Lawson, but I seen him get turned into a werewolf. He got stiff-armed and started running like a werewolf. I don't want to see that. Brumfield was cool. They said he was really smart. He also looked really small. When he was in there, he couldn't bring no ass to a hole. So pause. Anyway, I need some people that can hit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need some people that look like Caleb Woodson that can go downhill and hit. I seen Q Reddish come up against, I think it was Stanford, who, like, he was a true freshman last year, and I was like, that's probably the best tackle I've seen out of this team all year. So just things like that, man, that, like, when you really get back into it, like, now it's about to be football season. This is stuff that's just been in the back of my mind that I haven't thought about. And now that I'm going down and be like, oh, they brought this guy in. Oh, they brought this guy in. Stop bringing people in and not playing them. I'm just hoping give him a chance. Cunningham should have had a chance. He may be garbage. I don't think he is, but I'm just saying he may be, but he couldn't have been no worse than what we seen last year. So if you're coaching on the sidelines, like, give somebody else a chance if it ain't getting it done. But who's Mike on, man? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hijack.
That's all right. Mike got us into this, so I'm gonna let Mike finish this out. Mike, Tally asked, who's gonna be in there at inside linebacker? You brought up I think you bringing up Keller set him off. Danny got it worse, so you got to cool it down so we can move on.
I think I brought him up first, didn't I?
Kind of. It was Danny's fault.
It was a build.
It was build.
Slow build.
You did. It was a slow build. I'm really hoping that Keller has not hit his ceiling. I'm where everybody else is at. I hope Keller's the guy because I hope he's put it all together between the ears, like Brian just said. Like, that's my thing. He's been really good. He's been really bad, but it's like Brian also mentioned, it's never been a physical thing, right? So we'll see. I would prefer to have a guy with experience in the middle of the defense. I would prefer not to be relying on freshmen and sophomores in the middle of the defense if we can avoid it. So
understood on that. And, I think bringing in the two transfers was the big piece there because they have significant snaps. They played at collegiate speed on both sides. So we'll see what happens there. All right, I'm going to put you on the way back machine because this is going to scare y'all three. Well, Danny, probably more so you because it's going to make you realize something. A deep breath.
You're really this up.
The Hokies have not had a 1,000-yard receiver since 2016. First of all, go ahead, cry. Isaiah Ford was. Right. We have not even been close since 2018. Can anybody name who that was? 2018.
Was it Damon Hazelton?
Damon Hazelton.
Hazelton was like 890 something. So, with that being said, and y'all been paying attention, which I know y'all do, and I did the research last week. Montgomery, a shit ton of 1,000-yard wide receivers. He's had a bunch who exceptionally close to 1,000 yards. So I'll pitch it to you, Danny Nokes. If this were to happen this year, pull up your roster list. Who do you think could get 1,000 yards in this offense this year?
I think Donovan Green is probably where that conversation starts, just as a guy that comes over from Wake Forest and was a starter for them. But I believe he was the top ranked Wake Forest recruit in their program's history when he became a Demon Deacon. So Donovan Green is someone that comes over highly touted and with experience. And now he's a grad student here in Blacksburg. And I feel like it's an opportunity for him to really cut it loose. He's going to get to play with Kyron Drones, who we all know. Talk about a guy with a really high ceiling. Drones, when he's on, it sure is a lot of fun to watch. And Green just seems like a guy, solid. He's built well. He's had some injury problems, though, right? He's had some injury issues throughout his career. So, can he stay healthy? But that's a guy that if he doesn't come through or he gets hurt, I don't think that there's any shot that anybody else is hitting 1,000 yards on that in that wide receiver room.
David?
I mean, I think Danny hit the nail on the head. Donovan Green is definitely, I think, the most explosive guy in that room. And right now in preseason camp, we've seen Chance Wiggins is banged up. Brent Pry said earlier today that it doesn't look like he's going to be available for the opener against South Carolina. Keelan Adams has been banged up. Takai Heath has been banged up. I think a lot of that stuff is very minor, not to worry anybody. I think a lot of that stuff is very minor, but those guys have to stay healthy. And the guy Danny just mentioned, he's been great when he's healthy. If he's not, that's a problem. One of the guys that I think Tech is going to rely heavily on this year is Isaiah Spencer. Transfers in from Jackson State, I believe. He was a terrific receiver at the FCS level. He's got a little bit of versatility, can play inside, can play out. And I think, maybe he doesn't necessarily have the rapport with Kyron Drones that he does right now because he came in so late over the summer. He wasn't here for the spring. And also Kyron, didn't practice a ton in the spring. But I think Isaiah Spencer is a guy who nobody's really talking about because he's a FCS transfer, but I think he's a guy that he could have a really big breakout year. I'm not sure he can hit 1,000, and I don't know that there are many guys that can. I think it will be a group effort. But I think Isaiah Spencer is a guy who could potentially have a big breakout year. And, you've seen the way that I think back to last year, the way the Hokies used a guy like Jalen Lane, should have used him more, as we talked about earlier. Yeah. I think Isaiah Spencer can be a guy like that you just get the ball in his hands. He's very shifty. He's very, very quick. And there's another obvious answer in the room, which is maybe where Mike might go. But I think Isaiah Spencer can be a breakout guy.
Yeah, my answer was going to be Donovan Green too, but in the essence of just kind of being different, I am just really intrigued by Cam Seldon. Like, I'm really hoping he steps up and he can be a guy who can contribute. I don't know if he'll be 1,000-yard receiver, but we've heard too many good things about him, right? Like, coaches are raving about him. I hope he can step in and be the guy that everybody is talking about, right? He can put it together on the field. For purposes of the 1,000-yard receiver conversation, my answer was Green just because of the experience, the fact that he's got, like over 100 career receptions. He's got like 1,800 yards receiving. So when he's healthy, he's proven that he can be a really steady presence on the offense. And I think Virginia Tech's going to need somebody to be really steady in that receiving room. It's a lot of like 6'1", 6'2", 180-pound guys. It's not surprising me that there's a bunch of injury issues already. That is something I'm really concerned about. Cam Seldon kind of bucks that trend a little bit. So, I mean, that's something to be a little bit encouraged about. He's stockier receiver that I think can go over the middle, catch a pass. You're not worried about him not getting up. I'm really concerned about that with several of the receivers that I think are going to play significant snaps this year. So are these guys ready in this offense? We'll see kind of what it looks like. The Philip Montgomery offense to the passive, it's been a lot of crossing routes, a lot of shifty receivers, kind of in the mold of what Virginia Tech's got in their receiving room, running routes over the middle of the field. And Kyron Drones, I love him. He's thrown a hospital ball or two. I'm a little concerned about this receiving group, man. I'm really concerned about them all staying healthy. And then out of the guys that are healthy, who's going to be able to contribute and be the most consistent. So I'm hoping for a big year for Donovan Green, because if it's not going to be him, who is it going to be? I know everybody's looking at Aiden Green as like wide receiver one. If it's not going to be Donovan Green, the thing about Aiden Green is like, is he wide receiver one just because we kind of need him to be? Like, is this kind of like how Caleb Smith was in year one at Pry, where it's like, are we really sure he's ready to take that next step? Obviously, I think Aiden Green is a better player than Caleb Smith, and I don't want to sit here and slander Caleb Smith on this podcast, but that's just kind of like the receiving group. That's kind of, those are the types of concerns I have. It's like, is this guy the wide receiver one by default? Like, we'll see. So big questions with the pass catchers in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about Aiden Green there, and I think the weird thing that we're looking at is, I think someone said on Twitter the other day, it was like, well, we're talking about the youth in the wide receiver room, and it's not really youth. Like, most of these guys are at least redshirt sophomores or older, but not very many of them have played significant snaps, especially for the Hokies.
Yeah.
So it's more of that experience and that experience with this unit than necessarily it is an age thing. So it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. Sheldon, I'll let you kick the next one out to these gentlemen.
Yeah, we're talking Philip Montgomery. Now, gents, you guys know offensive coordinators get all sorts of criticism, rightly or wrongly, and obviously we don't need to relitigate all of the discourse around Tyler Bowen, who's now moved on to Ohio State. But, between play selection, personnel usage, the passing game, quarterback play, what element of the offense do you feel like Montgomery can really come in and kind of clean up in comparison to last year? Let's start with Mike and then work our way left to right.
I'm hoping it's not the same game plan every single game. I feel like we've seen that a lot with the recent offensive coordinators, not just Bowen. So I'm hoping that there's at least something different we can show the opposing team every week. I think there are enough playmakers and there are enough. I mean, I just talked about the questions with the receiver. There's all different types of running backs that Virginia Tech can run out there too, right? In terms of what they're able to do and their skill sets. I'm hoping that the running game looks a little bit different because I think it's going to have to be without Tootin in the backfield. Obviously, losing a bell cow back like that, I think you're going to have to get a little bit more creative. I really like the guys they've brought in at running back, but it is going to look different this year, right? I would prefer, and I know that the running element of Drones' game is so crucially important to what he's able to do, and without his legs, right, if he's confined to the pocket, that's not really who he is, even though I do think when healthy, he's really developed into a fine pocket passer when he's needed to be. So I would prefer if they don't run Drones into the ground, and I think they have so many running backs that they can kind of take the onus off of him. But the biggest thing I'm looking for, it was a lot like we just talked about with Seifkis on the defensive side, flexibility in the game plan. So many new faces, a lot of guys that I think the Tech coaching staff feels good about in the receiving core, even if I don't particularly feel good about things there, they seem to. At least that's what they're saying. And I do feel good about the running back room, though. And I think if you get anything out of the offensive line this year, any sort of steps forward and improvement, and you can be a bit more flexible in the game plan, I think that's really what I'm looking for in terms of what Montgomery can bring to the table.
It's a very broad answer, but I think he's going to bring more consistency. And by that, I mean, kind of going off what Mike said, Tyler Bowen, it felt like early in the year, he did not get the game plan right. It took him a couple weeks to get the game plan right. And then he was hit or miss. And you talk about a game plan he got right. You look back at that Syracuse game last year where Virginia Tech was starting Colin Schlee and two backup running backs in Malachi Thomas and Jeremiah Coney, and had a sizable lead and put up terrific numbers before things went downhill in the second half. It was the opposite the next week, where Kyron Drones and Bashal Tootin should not have played hurt against Clemson. They didn't give a running back outside of Tootin a touch. And it's like, what? So, and that was Clemson's worst rushing defense in like 30 years. Yeah. So it was like sometimes Tyler Bowen was on and sometimes he was off. And I think Philip Montgomery, he's so experienced. You look at his last stop was at Auburn. And it's so funny because if anybody reads anything about Hugh Freeze and the way he kind of runs his program, he's very hands-on and wants to do everything himself and doesn't like he hires an offensive coordinator and doesn't let the guy coordinate. Right. I think Philip Montgomery has the keys to kind of do whatever he wants. And my thought is that unlike Tyler Bowen, to what Shelton asked, I think Philip Montgomery knows exactly what he wants to do from week one. Like he comes out there with a game plan and goes, this is how we're going to play. It's not, hey, we're going to try to figure it out. It's, hey, we've got a concept. We've got a game plan. I think he's got the opportunity to really put Tech's best foot forward from the beginning and kind of like Seifkis, use the guys to their best of their ability. We were talking earlier about getting Jalen Lane touches. There were so many weapons on last year's team that probably should have gotten the ball more. You got to figure out who those guys are this year and get them the ball. Yep. Like that's college football nowadays. That's football, period. Get the ball in your best player's hands. And if it happens to be a Cam Seldon, if it happens to be a Tucker Holloway on a reverse, right? If it happens to be a Marcellus Hawkins or a Braden Bennett, you've got to get them the ball. That's the bottom line.
I think that you will see an immediate improvement in exactly what David is talking about, in the ability to recognize who needs to get the ball, because it might change from game to game, right? We talk about having a different game plan going depending on who the opponent is. I think Montgomery, with his experience, will be able to much more easily recognize who needs the touches in that game to effectively attack a defense. Talked about consistency, talked about in-game adjustments. I similar to what we were talking about on the defensive side of the ball, I don't see how it can get much worse from that standpoint. And on the offensive side of the ball, there was no consistency, and there were oftentimes not great in-game adjustments, right? Two more things that I would say about Montgomery coming in is I would hope that with that experience in the passing game, you can find a way to scheme Donovan Green or Aiden Green open, hit on some of those big plays. They don't have to be touchdowns, but open the defense up a little bit, because then that gives your running backs a chance to get it going. It's usually establish the run, then go over the top. It's going to depend on who the opponent is. It's going to depend on where you can attack a defense. And I have heard it sounds like Brent Pry and this staff is high on Marcellus Hawkins in the backfield. It really sounds like they really like him. He's going to get a lot of touches, whether it's him or Braden Bennett, who comes over from Coastal Carolina, who's really exciting, and the bowling ball, Terrion Stewart, who has been missing some time, as we understand it recently, didn't practice today. All three of those guys can contribute on the offense. So when you factor in a dual threat like Kyron, there are some tools there for them to make some explosive plays this year, more than we saw last year, which when you had Drones, Tootin, and Lane not being able to take advantage of those guys as often as they should have was really disappointing. I think that'll change this year.
Yeah, and you talk about like getting guys the football and riding the hot hand. Let's think back a little bit. Let's think to, I'll go even back further. Let's go Pitt in 2016 when we just kept throwing those fades to Isaiah Ford, like riding the hot hand when something's working. Just go back to the well, having the feel of that. We want to see that a little bit more, not being so rigid to what the game plan is, and being able to adapt on the fly and be able to ride that hot hand. I mean, I played offensive line at Hampton-Sydney. My head coach was also our offensive coordinator, and he did not play collegiate football. He was a basketball guy, but he understood playmakers and how to get playmakers the ball, and that's what it's all about.
Just don't do dumb shit. That's all I ask for. I mean, it's not that hard.
Pretty simple.
Hold it down.
Just don't do dumb shit is what we was doing. We was wasting plays. We was putting Colin Schlee in to like run motion.
Listen.
So you take somebody off of the field.
11 months.
Still
pissed off about this.
Yeah, you never build off of that. You know what I'm saying? It's just wasted plays. Like, you got to do something in the year. You got to throw like a double reverse pass or something off of that play if you're going to continue doing it at the beginning of the game or the beginning of the year. Because when you think back to last year, like even when we talk about Clemson, and I don't want to go all into that, but when you talk about like a game like Clemson, like I watched it again for some reason, and we lost it 24-14. And I think they were like 23rd in the nation or something. And we ran the ball like one time or two times that game. Running backs hurt, quarterbacks hurt. I get it, injuries happen, but I don't know, man. I think that you can't do any for as close as we were to winning. I really don't think you can do worse as a collective coaching staff as we did last year. That's just how I feel. We did a lot of dumb shit. Like, we didn't use people that we should have used. We didn't run plays. What did he say?
As I made you feel.
Yeah. Oh, we need to limit it. So anyway, I'm gonna get off my soapbox and go to the next thing, because somebody was bringing up a couple of playmakers, and we think about Kyron being a playmaker, but also the offensive line. Who else do you guys think that we need to have a big year that will fuel the Hokies' success besides Kyron or the offensive line?
Who wants to start?
I just put it out there because I know this was going to be hard. So I was hoping somebody would be brave.
I'll go. You go ahead, Mike. You go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think the three running backs you mentioned, Danny, I think collectively we need them to be like at least a full Tootin.
Exactly.
Right? Or a little bit more than that, considering there's 3 guys there, right? Obviously not the best news that Terrion Stewart hasn't been practicing. Hopefully that's temporary and we can see him back on the field soon. He'll be ready for the opener. But we need those 3 guys you mentioned, Danny, Bennett, Hawkins, and Stewart. We need them to be able to replace the production of Bashal Tootin. That's what Virginia Tech needs in the running game, 1,000%. And that's why you brought these guys in. And that's why you brought in so many of them. And that's why you kept Jeremiah Coney around. Like, you have depth at running back. We need to use it. We have to find the right combination. That's just extraordinarily crucial, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to something I said earlier in the broadcast, gentlemen, which is that for Tech to be as successful as they can be this year with this roster, I think on offense it is going to start with the running game and to really play good defense, obviously, but control the clock and find a way to get one of these guys in the rhythm. If it's Hawkins, feed him, right? They've been talking a lot about Hawkins in the offseason. Well, if he's the guy, then feed him. If it's Bennett, who's got a lot of experience coming over from Coastal Carolina, give him the ball. If it's a cold day in November in Blacksburg against Louisville, November 1st, and you got to ride Terrion Stewart to the promised land, then do it. And the offensive line obviously is going to have a major role to play in that success as well, as will Kyron Drones, because Kyron Drones is a very capable runner. But as Mike said, you got to be careful not to overwork him and get him into a situation where he's getting dinged up, because when he gets dinged up, he's just not the same guy. We saw that last year. So I really have been harping on the running game. It would be nice to see someone like Donovan Green. I saw one of our listeners also threw Benji Gosnell in there, which I love as a pick as well, because I think he's gonna have to come up with some really big catches, maybe on third down in the red zone, wherever it is. They're going to rely on him too. He's got some experience, but I think it all starts with the running game for the offense.
This is what I'm going to throw in. This is what I'm going to throw in as well, guys. Because everything y'all are saying is really good. And I think Curtis may have said it earlier when you just talked about going back into a, Virginia Tech style football team. Maybe it was Curtis or Mike, but whatever. Sometimes you just are who you are. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that we're going to have this high-powered passing offense that's going to be, rival Oregon or somebody like that. I'm not saying that. But what I do know is that we are not a strong enough team to just run the ball down people's throats. I just don't think that we will ever be that. So we have to be capable enough to get some motherfuckers off the line.
Yeah.
We have to be able to push the ball down the field, whether that's using 10 wide receivers to catch, a pass each, just to do something different to get people off of the line so we can run the ball. They have those receivers. I challenge everybody who watches this show, if you're a Virginia Tech fan, pick one game a season and waste your money. Just go watch that game. Go sit in the stands and just look at stuff that the camera doesn't show. Because I'm big on like getting on coaches and stuff like that. But sometimes plays are called right. Sometimes wide receivers are running open and we can't get them the ball, or the quarterback doesn't throw the ball. So there's some things that are going right that you don't see on TV. But some of these players just don't get the chance again. I seen Takai Heath in the first game last year when we went to Nashville, and I was like, he looks faster than all the other wide receivers. And then I never got to see him do anything. So things like that, I'm just like, stop wasting it. Let's find a way to put the ball in this person's hands, because we kept running them on these like fake jet sweeps and things like that, but we just, again, never went back to them. So I hate to keep harping on things like that, but whenever I think about like who will be important to this team to have success, I think it's going to be on offense, I think it's going to be somebody that nobody's called out. Like, and I'm not saying they're going to just, blow us away. Somebody like what somebody in the chat said, Benji. I'm thinking, maybe a third wide receiver or something like that. Because if you look last year, our top wide receiver had like 500 yards. Yep. And then right after him, you had maybe like 400. Mm-hmm. Then after that, it was like 350 or something, right? Yeah. So if you can bump all of those up just a little bit, the top guy, if he has 600, the guy behind him has 500, the guy behind him has 400, we're making up those yards that Tootin had that he was fighting people off in the backfield to get, or you're making up those yards that Kyron's trying to run and get them. We need to find a way to do that, and I think it's going to be somebody who steps up that we don't know who that is yet. So it's just my 2 cents.
I just don't want Kyron Drones to be like 60 to 65% of the rushing attack now that Tootin's not on the roster anymore. That's just my concern, right? We're gonna fall into that because and I would be more worried about that, I guess, if Bowen was still calling plays because he's had the familiarity and he's like, all right, look, we know what Kyron is, like, let's just run him. It's like, no, there's a reason why he brought all these guys in. So I'm not as concerned about that with Montgomery calling plays, but that's just a general thought that I have is I just don't want Kyron to take over the running game because we don't have Tootin in the backfield anymore. That's why you went out and paid all these guys the money to bring him in out of the portal. Let's use them. Let's try to replace Tootin's production some way, somehow, and not have it be heavily dependent on what Kyron's able to do, with his legs. So,
D, kind of close us out, man.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna before somebody even commented, I was gonna say Benji Gosnell. I think the tight ends, him and Harrison St. Germain. I mean, those are two guys who've played some snaps. You got a new position coach there in Brent Davis. He slid over from the offensive line. He's a triple option background guy. I think that this group's blocking, both run blocking, particularly run blocking because they won't pass block as much, obviously. But I think that group's blocking is going to be much improved considering Brent Davis is the position coach. That was my feel from talking with him at the program's media day a couple weeks ago, that they've really, really harped on that. But Benji Gosnell, how many times last year did Tech do a good job of scheming him open? He was a guy I thought that Tech actually did a pretty good job of getting him the ball. Maybe he could have done it more, but there were one or two big plays where it was like an unbalanced formation, and all of a sudden Benji Gosnell's wide open down the middle of the field. He's a guy that, I mean, he was a highly touted 4-star recruit for a reason that was originally committed to Ohio State. Yep. Like, get him the ball, right? That goes back to that conversation, kind of what Brian was talking about. Like, he's talented. Get him the ball. And I think in Harrison St. Germain, if you want somebody outside of your really talented running backs and your wide receivers who are kind of still unproven a little bit to get some touches, you got two tight ends that have been doing it for a while. Get them the ball. And I think they're both pretty versatile. They both got pretty good hands. I mean, you think back to that Military Bowl at the end of 2023, each of them had a touchdown catch in that game. It's not like these guys can't catch the ball. So I think they can add a different wrinkle to this offense if used properly.
100%. I'm gonna throw this out there before I pitch over to Brian. Somebody mentioned his name earlier. You asked me what fuels the success on the offensive side of the ball. It's going to be, I think, Cam Seldon. It's the versatility. And we know some of the stuff that Monty does with the veers and stuff, that's made for a Cam Seldon type player. Like some of those veers and stuff, you want a player like him. And he's coming in. I think there's a chip there. He went to Tennessee because they all leave Virginia and go somewhere, get shat on, and then they come back home. APR went to Florida. They shat on him and basically said, you can't play. What'd that son of a bitch do last year? I think he's the key, because if you tell me you're talking like 500 yards, he gets to 1,000 all-purpose running and receiving, like 600, 400. You want to talk about game planning? You couldn't game plan for that. Even going in week, like, what are they going to do with him? Are they going to run him inside veer? Are they going to sneak him in the backfield and maybe run a dive off of like a motion? Think about that. Put him in a slot motion into the backfield and then just run it down the gut as big as he is. At 6'2", 216.
He's a great athlete.
He is a great athlete.
He's a great athlete. He comes over a former running back, right, and now is going to contribute as a wide receiver. He is the type of guy that if they can get him going early, he is going to be tough to game plan for. And we've talked a lot about game planning and making sure that coaching staff is mixing it up. He does seem like the type of guy that was written off by an SEC school and can come in and make an impact, but we just have to see, that Kyron Drones is going to have to take a step forward, both as a passer, and hopefully they scheme a little bit better for him in the run game so that they're not just completely reliant on him to pick up what they're going to miss without Tootin.
Right.
I agree.
All right, Brian, ready?
Yeah. I mean, I think we've held it back long enough. Let's go ahead and pull this one out there. Whit Babcock went to the Board of Visitors with a presentation effectively saying football is behind, and not just behind, pretty far behind, kind of about, somewhere around 9 or 10 in the ACC overall. Looking for basically within the next, year or two, needing to get to 200 million when you're looking at probably 144 million operating as of this upcoming year. What's going to come out of this? Because I feel like when I looked at it, it was kind of twofold. It was like, this is absolutely needed. Why are we just having this conversation?
Hopefully the Board of Visitors takes their head out of your you-know-what.
So I can take the lead on this if you guys want. I was in the room on Monday at the Board of Visitors meeting, and I thought Whit Babcock's presentation was very good. I thought it resonated very well with the BOV. People on Twitter I've seen ask, why is this just now happening? Why is this just now happening? Well, a good chunk of the presentation was about the House settlement, which just got passed this year, and about the ACC settlement with Florida State and Clemson, which just got passed this year, and what that means money-wise. There are things in there that Tech could have been doing a long time ago. That's a conversation for later. But the bottom line is, yes, Virginia Tech needs to win football games, and yes, Virginia Tech needs to be better in men's basketball, which is going to happen, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
But you have to fund the athletic program correctly, whether it's direct or indirect support from university, even to match UVA. You have to come up with different ways to fund athletics and to give athletics more resources if you want to be competitive. Yeah. There are a lot of really good quotes in there. If you're interested, we covered it a lot this week, a podcast and 2 stories over on Tech Sideline. A lot of quotes from Whit about these resources do not meet the expectations. Tech ranked the lowest out of all the public schools in the ACC, 14th overall in budget, right? That's going to go up, as Brian said, to 144 million in fiscal year 26. But at the same time, everybody else is going up too. And Whit's point, which again I thought resonated very well, is you can either step up or get left behind. And it's not that athletics has not been a priority, but it's that this is an inflection point because of the House settlement, because of the ACC settlement, that this is a huge moment. Because if you do not take advantage of this, if you're not prepared going into this, you're going to get left behind. And the Board of Visitors today earlier came out with a couple big statements that you probably saw on Twitter, talking about how, we basically saying we understand, we are going to find a way to come up with money. Now, Whit Babcock had a list of $52 million in investments. Don't know that all of them will happen, but of course, if you shoot for the moon and you take what you can get, right? Whit's not going to ask for 30 million if he wants 30 million. He's going to ask for 50 million, right? But there are ways Virginia Tech has to figure out how exactly it can boost the revenue. It's not like you just snap your fingers, flip a switch, and it's there. It's going to take some time. But I came out of that Board of Visitors meeting on Monday, and also after this stuff today, thinking this board is on board with what Whit wants to do. They are on board. It's just going to be a matter of how the Hokies come up with the money. So I think Virginia Tech fans should feel pretty good about just the message got through.
Yeah.
I think they're. I was sorry, Brian. I think they are going to get some of that money that they're asking for right now. I think that the board seems to be receptive to it. It seems like everyone realizes the urgency of the moment. I think that they are going to rise to that moment. They're going to do it. But there's two problems, right? Because there's the financial side of this, and then there's just the on-field product. Because I think it was either Mike or David this week. I saw one of y'all say there is plenty of room to win 8 or 9 games in the ACC right now with where Virginia Tech is at right now, and they're not doing it. And it's because of bad decision making, right? Brent Pry, a first-year head coach, hired a first-year offensive coordinator and a first-year defensive coordinator when he had never run a program before. That's just a lack of common sense. That was stupid. So there's just bad decisions being made all over the place. And we don't have to get into some of the decisions that have been made by the higher ups in the athletic department, like Whit Babcock, but it's twofold, because you have to obviously have the resources nowadays, but you have to have the results on the field too, which they're not doing right now. So once they start to figure that out, and there's a couple more wins on the board every single year, you're just going to have some more money trickling in naturally too.
Yeah, Mike, before I kick it to you, I want to say one thing real quick. And this kind of stood out to me and was, I think, one of the better points that Whit made in the process was that this is going to cost you either now to get better or later if you don't. So either way, this is gonna be money that is gonna cost you. So, Mike, I'm gonna let you jump in. I know you guys had a pretty big conversation about this recently as well.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what Whit meant, right? Everybody took it on Twitter and ran with it. And it was like, well, I'm either going to be here or I'm not going to be here. I think his whole point was we can deal with this now or we can deal with this later, but we're going to have to have a come to Jesus moment at some point about the money, right? Because for every Texas and Texas A&M and Georgia and Alabama, Notre Dame, you name the blue blood, right, that has more money than God and has a bunch of donors that are contributing in a meaningful way, a bunch of very, very wealthy donors. There are schools like Virginia Tech. There's 6 or 7 or 10 or 20 other schools that are dealing with the exact same thing, with an athletic director that's going to the university and saying, we need help from the university. This is not all going to come from our donors. We have to find another way to get the money right for football if we want to be competitive moving forward. It's not just football, of course, it's men's basketball, trickles on down, but football is the cash cow at all of these FBS schools. It just is. There are 2 points, like Danny just mentioned, took the words right out of my mouth. It's the money. It's also the right leadership in place, right? And there's enough money for Virginia Tech to be competitive in the ACC right now. Yep. There is not enough money or coaching, for that matter, for Virginia Tech to compete at the national level the way a lot of fans want them to compete, right? And it's one thing to be a top 10 or 15 program going on 2 decades ago now, right? A consistent 10-win program that some years, like 99, can be more than that. And it's another thing to do that now in this environment. And the ACC is different now. The landscape of college football is a lot different now. You need to have the money, and with the revenue sharing and NIL and everything else that these coaches and these athletic departments are dealing with, it's a lot different landscape than it was. And for Virginia Tech to be competitive on the national scale the way that a lot of the fans expect and want it to be from the old days, there needs to be a financial commitment from the university, because this is not going to be coming from the donors. If you want to elevate this thing, not just to 8 or 9 wins in the ACC, because I think the money's there now to do that, not just to be a 10-win program again, but if you want this program to be playing at an elite level, which is, I think, what Whit Babcock was trying to get across to the Board of Visitors. We don't just want this thing to be 9 or 10 wins and kind of be what we were before, where we were just happy to be competing in the ACC. Guys, we don't know what the ACC is going to look like in 5 years. It's going to be a lot different. Is it even going to be a conference anymore? That's up for debate. We don't know, right? So Virginia Tech's got to be ready for whatever the next stage of realignment and TV deals that are coming in the next 5 years, all the expansion to the college football playoff and what that's going to look like. Virginia Tech's funding right now for the football program is not in a place where this program is ready to compete at a national level, at a consistent top 20 to 25 level. Money is a big part of that. The leadership with the coaching staff, which it'll be either these guys that are currently there or it won't be. Tech's going to have to figure that answer out too. But I think a lot of what Whit Babcock said, and I was really just reading David's Twitter like on Monday. I was just kind of scrolling through. That's
You did a hell of a job, David. You did a hell of a job.
You guys did fantastic. You and Andy and David Teal, everybody.
Yeah.
I was really just scrolling through all the tweets. Whit was right about a lot of stuff. Everybody's mad at Whit for a lot of reasons, and a lot of them are justified. But guys, he's right. Like, he's right about this. Like, everything he said in the presentation was spot on. Like, he's right. Like, Tech's got to figure this out. So I'm encouraged by the Board of Visitors listening. It scared me that some of them were like, "Oh, we had no idea." It's like, okay, well, we got to figure it out then.
Maybe they need to get off the Board of Visitors then if they don't.
It scared me.
Get that?
It was interesting to me that, like, I get maybe, holding back some of this information while you're waiting to see how the House settlement is shaking out, and you're waiting to see how some of these other things with the ACC and Clemson and Florida State play out. But we had a funding problem relative to the heavy hitters in the ACC for over a decade at this point. It's just very interesting that they weren't privy to a lot of how that has evolved and how that has eroded over the last decade and a half.
But for 1 second, Brian, but that's on Whit. Whit should have been presenting that shit to them all the time. Listen,
that's my point. Like,
it's on him. It's on him.
I get that there is a lot of moving targets there, and that you may want you're trying to hold back maybe what you want to say until you actually have a full picture. But at some point, you can't continue to fall behind when you at least know the parts that aren't going to change, right? Like, there needed to be some conversations in the interim.
Too much complacency.
Pressure.
Too much complacency, man. Just too much
pressure will bust pipes or make a diamond. Whit is getting that pressure put on his ass right now.
Bingo.
I ain't saying he listening to Joe Rogers, but I'm just saying he hears the noise and he knows what's coming. And he was trying to do all of this. Well, let's talk about wrestling. Let's talk about baseball. Let's talk about grab ass. And I don't know what he's talking about. But then he realized
that's a great sport talent.
Then he realized, like, if this is the cash cow, we probably need to do this. I think Sean just put up a post or a comment that said, you got to be able to sell the vision. Listen to me. And then I know we got to go to something different. I seen a man in Blacksburg. Excuse me. I don't know what you call him, a man. Don't counsel me. I seen a person in Blacksburg that was born a male sucking dinglings in the dark and get unalived. And then the person who unalived him never went to jail. Anything is possible if you got a plan and you got a vision. Go hire that dude who was the lawyer. Go hire him to sell the vision. We probably get all the money. I'm just saying.
I didn't see that one coming.
Yeah, that was Callie, for the right.
That was a left turn, but
he
made it.
The reason
hey, in certain towns across this wonderful country of ours, if you play for the football team, you don't go to jail for shit. That's what he's saying,
man. I've seen some crazy stuff.
I know that down in Athens, that's for sure.
No, you kill people in Athens all the time.
They have it. They getting DUIs, running into people, running over curbs, jumping on the sidewalk. Nobody ain't going to jail.
Ain't nobody. All right,
sell it.
All right, real quick. This is kind of the last one. Not a big question, and don't go in depth because I know y'all got all your media pieces. And David, Decon, I don't know if you can even release it here yet. Just give me a record. I'm gonna start with Danny Nokes because I know he probably of the three of y'all can. What's the record? Don't go deep.
Right. Yeah.
High level.
Yeah, very simple. And I'm going 6-6, and for me, that's the optimistic route. I look at this schedule and I see 5, but like there's so many what ifs, right? Which I think a lot of it'll come with injuries. but this Brent Pry has shown me 6-6 is just about the ceiling. And with a lot of roster turnover, despite Jones coming back, I just don't think I can go higher than that.
Is Mike?
I'm gonna give it to you, Mike, because kind of I don't know if you might be bound by legal obligation.
No, Curtis, I'm good.
All right, David, Mike, and we'll wrap up with D. Mike,
6-6. 6-6.
Hey, he's saying we're making a bowl this year. Remember a couple years ago, we got on his ass when he said we won't make it a bowl.
We did make a bowl that year.
We got lucky.
Yep.
Yeah, 6-6. We'll make a bowl game. Back to Military Bowl. Play Tulane probably. That'll be good. Yeah, 6-6. 6-6. Opening 2 games really tough. Brutal November. Worried about Drones, his health. Questions at receiver. Offensive line. It's gotta be better, or else this is not going to be good. So, yeah, 6-6. Too many questions.
All right, D-Connor, last man standing here. What you got?
7-5.
Ah, he's on one up. Yo.
Oh,
7-5.
I think now. I think the most pivotal game on the schedule is Vanderbilt.
Yep.
And that kind of changes everything.
Yep.
But I think Tech gets that game at home under the lights. I think, this schedule is much more difficult, but I think the coaching staff is better, and I think that's the ultimate difference. I think having coaches that know how to adjust in game, it's like, what a concept, right? I mean, like having coaches that can coach, it's amazing what that will do for the program. And I genuinely think this schedule is much more difficult, but I think the coaching makes that much of a difference, and I think they can win 7 games. And I genuinely think that this, depending on, again, it's really tough to say all this because we haven't seen a ton of it yet. But I think if the staff can put the guys in the right positions, like this group, not as much talent as last year, but they can do some stuff.
Yeah.
Especially in some of those ACC games. November, it gets a little scary. Louisville, Florida State, Miami, back to back to back. But I'm going 7 wins, which I did. It's funny. Mike and I had talked about this recently. I did not realize I was going to be the optimist here. Because I remember a couple of years ago when I said 5 wins and Tally got on my ass for saying, "Oh, David said they're not going to go to a bowl game."
You and me both.
Yeah. Guess what, Tally? I'm the optimist here.
That's right.
Hey, you dumb again, David. You should have flipped it around. You should have been with Daddy this year.
All right, that makes me feel better.
No, I'm just playing, man.
It's only a 1-game difference.
Hey, I was feeling good that year. But
listen.
Matter what you said this year, David, I was gonna say, "Yep, that's a good pick, buddy," because I don't know nothing.
I can see 5. I can see 8. I mean, anywhere in between. It's one of those weird years where, like, because of how much turnover we had, how much new we have on the staff, there's not a lot of known quantities. And we thought we had a lot of known quantities last year, and between injuries and fumbling by the staff, we didn't turn that into wins. So we'll see.
A lot of stuff there.
I will say if it's 6-6, I don't think Pry keeps his job because I think Witt's going down with him.
Oh, stop. We just had a BOV saying we're fucking poor, Mike. He ain't getting fired unless it's absolutely atrocious.
only if Witt gets fired.
Yeah,
Witt would have to get fired in October, though.
In October,
for that to make sense.
That is, you guys are opening a can of worms.
So we'll bring you back on in December, David. Then we'll talk about it even more.
I'll be more than happy to.
Well, listen, Mike, David, Danny, it's great seeing y'all again. Hopefully, at some point we cross paths during the season, whether in Blacksburg, Richmond, wherever. We appreciate you guys joining us as always. Again, check Mike McDaniel out on Mike. You're on everything, but Hokie Hangover, David Cunningham on Tech Sideline. Check out Danny Nokes on Twitter and with Victory Life Podcast. As always, we are brought to you by Counts Family Pharmacy in Blacksburg and our new sponsor. He's lighting up the comments in there. He's getting his money's worth. Moments on the Maury. Down in Lexington, Virginia, a place y'all definitely should check out. And Brian, we got one more thing, right?
Yeah, we're gonna run this. Obviously, you guys know that at this point we've got a giveaway of 2 tickets to the Countdown to Kickoff concert down in Atlanta. So I'm gonna let us show a little video here, tell you a little bit about it, and we'll talk a little bit more on the backside with 3 new guys. Hey, Hokie Nation, it's your man Brian from Boundary Corner Podcast. Get ready to kick off the 2025 season in style. Our good friends over at the Hokie Way are hosting the Countdown to Kickoff concert featuring the always fantastic band OAR. Join fellow Hokies, alumni, and fans for an exclusive private event at the iconic Tabernacle in Atlanta, Georgia. That's right, Hokie Nation is taking over the Tabernacle to celebrate the start of the Virginia Tech football season. Matt, tell the people more.
Mark your calendars. The concert's happening Saturday, August 30th at 7 p.m., the night before our opening game against South Carolina. This is more than just a concert. It's a chance to support a great cause. Every ticket you buy will further the Hokie Way's mission of enabling student athletes at Virginia Tech to promote and support our incredible charitable partners. And before the concert, make sure to catch a special on-location broadcast of Tech Talk Live from the venue where Zach Mackey and Mike Burnap will be interviewing special guests.
And here's a special announcement. Boundary Corner Podcast is giving away 2 free tickets to the concert. Visit boundarycornervt.com/concert for details on how you can enter. This is your official welcome to the new football season, so start jumping. For more details or to secure your tickets now, visit thehokieway.org/concert and be sure to use that code Boundary Corner, one word, to save 10% off your order. See you in Atlanta, and go Hokies.